brave marketing leaders of the future, right? The ones who are really going to succeed for the long term are thinking about, how am I disrupting myself and my company in order to build a future workforce, team, media marketing plan that is sustainable for the future, right? How are we working more speedy and agile? How are we, rethinking how we do work, how we build our marketing and media plans? What is foundational? And then what are the incremental brand moments that need to happen so we become known for something bigger than ourselves? Taylor Swift is a great example of that. Barbie is a great example of that. The work that I've seen in the past few years at Lowe's companies, at Rakuten, Procter & Gamble, you see a lot of these moments that are so strategically tied to culture, talent, the right partnerships to really help brands break through.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the eMarketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I see 2024 as a really catalytic year for a lot of brands and for a lot of marketers. So I'm super excited to be chatting with Ashley Miles, who is the founder and CEO of a fairly new company called Franklyn West, 3 years old. So whenever I talk to a founder of a new consultancy or agency or even tech company, I always want to know what's the founder story, what's the catalyst, what's the origin story? Because there's usually some kind of a epiphany that a person has where they decide, okay, we can do this better, or I can do this better.
Hi, Kevin. So great to be here. Thank you for having me, and happy holidays.
Thank you. You too.
The story, I spent my career, nearly 20 years, building and scaling brave companies, disruptor brands, building and scaling them from 0 to 9 figures in many cases. So, hyper growth, always the commercial leader in those roles, but always led from a creative place as well as a commercial and revenue point of view. And I think that's where the magic happens. And so there was a point in my career 3.5 years ago where 2 things happened. One was operating full time in those roles, those commercial leadership roles. I always felt like we were too siloed. We could move a lot faster and realize our bold visions if we could be more elastic, if we could match talent to new problems to solve with speed and energy that was less rigid, right? I also felt like the recruiting process was a long lead time. It didn't always match the specific business challenges. I just felt there was always a better way to show up from a talent, problem-solving point of view. So that was always in the back of my mind. Didn't quite have the solution. It just was always there. I felt working with traditional consulting firms, I felt they were great with long-term strategic planning, but I didn't always feel that it was an actionable, executable solution with speed. So that was always in the back of my mind. Where are the results? Where's the accountability? But again, didn't have the answer. But what I did have was a massive network of top talent across commercial, creative, events, branding, marketing, sales. So I did have this incredible network of talent, all-star talent. And what happened 3.5 years ago was I also started feeling a burning desire to make a much broader impact in the business community beyond staying at one company for 5 years. How do we take all that talent, that formula for growth, that formula for rapidly solving new problems, and apply it to a portfolio of Fortune 500 companies? And that's exactly what we did with launching Franklyn West, which is the mission is to help brave leaders and companies of the future move faster, win in their categories, and achieve success.
So a common theme, I think, and it tends to be correlated to company size, but it's not exclusively based on company size, which is inertia, right? And there's this inertia. And at the C-suite, a lot of the folks realize like we have way too much inertia. And so, and things are moving more and more quickly around us, right? And so it sounds like you want to go in there and help them identify, well, which trends need the attention, which trends don't need the attention. How do you break through that inertia? How do you sort of find a way to, pivot a very large ship, quickly, right? Given the fact that the bigger the brand, the more bureaucracy there probably is internally. I mean, back 31 years ago when I was at McCann Erickson, I would sort of laugh at the media plan every year because it would look almost identical to last year's media plan. I mean, now under did it, we're lucky if it looks this month to month, sometimes week to week, and so that certainly has gotten a lot more rapid, but it's the smaller the brands, they're more nimble in that area. And it sounds like you're adding the nimbleness to the big brand.
Speed and agility, elasticity is one of our core values.
Right.
What inspires me the most is amazing talent. And for me, it doesn't matter if they're inside the company, if they're outside the company. I would challenge marketers to keep an open mind to matching the right talent, whether it's liquid talent or it's full-time, your tried and true employees, and bring them together as a SWAT team to solve new problems with speed, with a renewed energy, breaking outside their silos. That's what inspires me, is when it's less about the internal politics of things, and it's more about bringing the brightest folks inside the organization with outside experts to tackle new problems. And you would not believe the results that come with this new way of working. In fact, we have one Fortune 50 retailer where we stood up a retail media network within months versus years with a skeleton crew internally, paired with a SWAT team of outside retail media experts that have built a 9-figure new revenue stream in a very brief point in time with a differentiated brand. It's not just another retail media network. It is one that stands out, that has a story. And that could not have been done in a traditional setting internally.
Well, that's one thing big brands do bring to the table is they got muscle, right? They may not have trained that muscle to do a specific exercise. And so it seems like you guys could come in there and really help them. So one of the challenges that I think
real quick on that note, what's great about the big brands is they often have the audience, they have reach,
exactly,
have resources, they have consistent internal teams that are tried and true, really owning the foundation of the business. So if you can imagine that power harnessed with a splash of fresh perspective and confidence and just reinforcements into what they're doing, you can imagine what could be created.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the deployment of those resources is something the startups lack, right? They only have cash, and cash is not the same as having, momentum and audience and brand equity that they can leverage. So obviously the C-suite is recognizing that there's these missed opportunities. If they don't take advantage of them, they'll miss the opportunity potentially forever, right? Because the competitor may come in there. But at the same time, when you go in there and your team sits down with them, there might be 5 or 6 or 10 different opportunities, 10 different things they could do. Because I'm sure, hey, spin up a retail media network wasn't the only thing they were considering, right? And you may be able to create a liquid team to do 3 things, but probably not 6, right? So how do you help them think through that opportunity versus opportunity cost process, right? Of like, here's where we place the punches, given who you are and the assets you bring to the table and where you want to be in a year, this is what you have to do.
Yes. One of our clients, it doesn't always have to be a big, new, expensive idea, right? In fact, one of our linear TV clients who is looking to rapidly become a digital first player, it was low-hanging fruit opportunity that we found. Hey, launch an in-house influencer network with all this amazing talent that you have under your belt through your TV relationships. And here's how you do it. And you can get this going in a couple weeks, right? So this didn't require new resources. We were just there to help build the car, teach the team how to drive it, and then we get out or stay on for maintenance. So in that case, it wasn't a big new idea, right? It was just low hanging fruit revenue that also was brand building. But what we did, inspired by that client and that exercise, we did, and with the rise of AI, which we're very excited about, we launched a new product called Think West. And it's a rapid business prototyping offering that pairs domain experts with AI, with the in-house data and insights teams to rapidly prototype new growth concepts within weeks. So to your point, you can't activate on all of them, right? But we might say, here are the top 3 that we think could be the most lucrative from a brand building and revenue perspective. Here's the cost and what that would resources and what that would look like. And they might only decide to execute one, and they might do that in-house, or they might ask us to go execute it, or a combination of both. So Think West, we're super excited about, because it's leveraging all the latest and greatest technologies with domain experts, with internal talent, external, to figure out what's new and next for my business.
Right. One other thing that I think brands maybe struggle with, and maybe it's because their agencies haven't become sufficiently sophisticated, and why I made 11 acquisitions under Did It to become more one-stop shop, is the idea of, the complexity of the marketing plan and the complexity of the media plan, right? When I was at McCann Erickson and J. Walter Thompson over 31 years ago, right, the choices were much more constrained. I mean, cable hadn't really even fully exploded yet, right? It was like just in the process of exploding. Now your ability to move budgets around, you've got almost infinite choice, right? You've got tonnage, let's buy a Super Bowl ad. You've got going super niche and, just buying one single website that is the perfect audience. So how do you go in and help brands think that through, right? Media mix, marketing mix, those are pretty big challenges.
Sure. So a lot of times they have a lot of this capability already, right? With their traditional media buying agencies, their in-house media team. I think a lot of the fundamentals they have figured out,
right,
at a baseline. And what we don't want to do is disrupt what they have, right? So we want to be the people who are incremental. We're the people who are always thinking about high value, what's new and next. Might we take this brand positioning and give it might we take this brand positioning and take it from scientific to more pithy to relate with consumer and trade, because you need a fresh set of eyes? Might we build a new revenue stream? Might we, rethink how we're going to market? Or might we, build a whole new team and upskill them to support a new division in your company, right? So for us, we are less in the mechanics on day-to-day marketing, media mix, because there's so many great people. And now with automation, a lot of that is happening. So we really think about, how are we putting our A-list talent on tough problems that companies are trying to solve, and get those high value things off the ground in a way that's incremental to what they're already doing. Now, if there was a company who is truly challenged on their marketing and media mix, and they needed an expert to come in and solve a specific problem to that, we have great folks who do it. But we have just found that a lot of times that's covered.
Right. One other thing that sort of almost seems like two completely different directions is you've got AI, right, which is non-human, right? And that's clearly got a tremendous amount of potential. We're just starting to scratch the surface there. And then you've got the authenticity of influencers and VIPs and their relationships with brands, and how that is sometimes required to break through the clutter, right? Because whether it's ad skipping or ad blockers, or sometimes it's the branded content and the relationships between influencers or VIPs or celebrities that allow the brand to actually get the message out. So those are two completely different directions. One is like, let's automate the crap out of media buying and media optimization and creative optimization. And then the other is, no, let's add the personal touch. Let's add the VIPs. Let's add the celebrities. Let's add the influencers. How do you help brands think that through, right? Because there's opportunity in both of those directions.
Well, I think it first starts with, who is my core consumer, and what do they care about, and who do they want to be, right? What are their aspirations? And then taking a look at the brand to say, how might I contribute to that consumer's life in a way that has gravity and is unique to what we offer. And I think when you bring those two parts together and also look at culture and the world around us, and to say, how are we connecting the dots on those three things? And then what is the personalized team we could put together to really solve that problem in a way that's transformative?
Absolutely. One other thing that's a trend that I'd love to hear how you're helping people perhaps break through a little bit more is a more agile marketing plan, right? It used to be that by this time of year, the media plan for the next year and the marketing plan for the next year was pretty much locked in, right? And it didn't change as much. But you need to sometimes add a new framework of thinking to move into a more agile marketing thought process. And of course, with fluid teams, you can then execute in a more agile way. So what is the internal catalyst or the internal way of discussing that with the C-suite where they have their epiphany and they're like, no, you're right. We need to increase velocity of change. We need to be able to evaluate new things more quickly. We need to be more agile.
So I would say brave marketing leaders of the future, right? The ones who are really going to succeed for the long term are thinking about, how am I disrupting myself and my company in order to build a future workforce, team, media marketing plan that is sustainable for the future, right? How are we working more speedy and agile? How are we, rethinking how we do work, how we build our marketing and media plans? What is foundational, and then what are the incremental brand moments that need to happen so we become known for something bigger than ourselves. Taylor Swift is a great example of that. Barbie is a great example of that. The work that I've seen in the past few years at Lowe's companies, at Rakuten, Procter & Gamble, you see a lot of these moments that are so strategically tied to culture, talent, the right partnerships to really help brands break through.
So have you ever had to be deployed or have your teams deployed to think through how one deals with a more divisive ecosystem, especially in the United States, right? You've got now, there's only a few topics that don't have some kind of political overtone. Right. And so to some extent, some brands are gun shy and are like, listen, we don't want to go anywhere near any of these topics. And others seem to be like, no, let's double down. Like, this is who we are as a brand. And we sort of feel like we need to double down in who our brand positioning is, So, I mean, Patagonia is still Patagonia, right? They haven't tried to sort of wiggle around in being Patagonia. And other brands similarly have sort of said, no, we're doubling down on who we are and who we serve and who our customers are. But not all brands, I feel like, have gotten through that. Have you been brought in to help them think that through?
For the past, honestly, 15, 17 years, I've been working with purpose-driven brands and helping them figure out, who do I want to be? When do I speak up? When do I have the right to say something? And how does that need to be articulated in a way that is not disruptive to my customer experience? And I think the advice we often give is, know who you are as a brand, know who you are as a marketing leader, to then say, how do we want to show up? And sometimes it's okay to not say anything, right? Like, I think where brands get in trouble is when they want to say something because everyone else is, or they have FOMO, right? And the reality is that is very dangerous for a brand. So I think it's staying true to who you are as a brand and a leader, and knowing who your customer is.
Yeah, I had to laugh because that goes for people who are brands as well, right?
100%.
They don't have to always comment. And especially if they're, if it's 3 a.m. and they're not thinking through things clearly, maybe just take a deep breath and don't comment, right?
Yes.
Because, there are people who have personal brands that are at risk as well, right? And not just brands, as we think about products and services, have that issue. So that's a great point. So the for 2024, what has you most excited? I mean, obviously you've got big plans for the company. You've got a whole bunch of engagements going on. What has you most excited?
What has me most excited is there's lots of problems to solve with Fortune 500 companies looking to do things differently, looking to disrupt themselves, combined with a rise of this liquid workforce, right? So if we can figure out how to build teams and solve problems in a way that is fluid and effective, I'm most inspired of the idea of driving impact. That's what keeps me up at night, is how are we making impact on behalf of our clients, the talent that we represent, really being in the weeds with CMOs at a time when they need us most, and being accountable, right? What we don't want to be doing is, encouraging our brands to spend lots of money on strategy and long lead times. It's like, let's get in there and make impact on behalf of these brands that are doing such phenomenal work. In fact, I have an 11-year-old daughter, Mila, and I'm watching her fifth grade girlfriends and their obsession over skincare, Sephora, Drunk Elephant, Ulta. I can't even tell you what's happening with these young girls and beauty retail. Not to mention Lululemon, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's. Like, they are the power consumers that then our generation is following, right? So I see these brands doing such incredible work already. It's how do we supercharge that? How do we continue to allow brands to tell stories, to sell products in a way that impacts a generation of young girls? So I'm super inspired about a changing workforce, lots of problems to solve, inspired by new technologies like AI that are giving us all such great advantages to work on more high value things. And I think it's going to be a hard year for many marketing organizations if we're not open to exploring new ways of showing up for our customers, our teams, our companies. I think it's going to be a hard year, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, a follow-up question to that is, a lot of folks think maybe 2024 will be a year of marketing austerity, meaning we need to drive the same results with less. And so I always come at that from an economist's perspective, is you need to know the marginal impact of everything you're doing. That tends to be lower half of the funnel, right? Where you still have to invest at the top end and understand that. But if there are folks who are coming to you in Q1 and saying, listen, the CFO came down and said, we're going to have to do more with less. And at the same time, you've got new talent showing up at your door because there were reductions in force at these organizations that have a great talent and just decided they needed to let folks go. So for the talent, should they consider being part of an organization like yours, right, as opposed to just looking for that next full-time gig? And for the organizations, if they're wrestling with marketing austerity, would you be happy to put together those teams for them that can help them 100%. Not just do the strategy and do the analysis, but actually execute, which is what the Deloittes and Accentures don't do.
If we're not executing, then we're just another line item, right? That's why we launched the company, is to get in there and make things happen. I think doing more with less is possible. It's why I launched Franklyn West. I don't think everything has to be expensive and long lead time and in-house for everything. I think marketers, you have to disrupt yourself in order to do more with less. But we're seeing it, like building that 9-figure new revenue stream for a Fortune 50 retailer. That new revenue stream was funding the marketing budget for the next year. So they had to build this in order to get their marketing budget up. So I think it makes sense. I think we're seeing it. We're seeing marketing leaders do more with less, with new approaches, with new technologies. I think it's all possible. So in fact, our growing list of all-stars, our SWAT team of experts, is growing by the day, right? You have incredible talent leaving big tech, from across the board, the beauty industry. We have incredible new experts, CPG, luxury, across every discipline. So that list is now thousands of experts. And the good news is they're all vetted. These are people we've worked with before. They're the best in the business. And so we have experts who are considering not going back full time, and they're building portfolios of work off the back of Franklyn West, where we're giving them the tools to go in and be effective consultants and execute. So they're not having to stand up their own consulting practice. We're giving them the tools to then go. We also don't work on everything that comes our way. We're very selective because it allows us to be effective in execution. So we're not looking to be the biggest. We're not looking to be McKinsey or Bain, right? But we are looking to be the best at what we do. High quality control. We're involved in all the different assignments. There's a lot of filters and protection on the quality of work. But yes, I think it's giving the workforce the opportunity to either go back full time, right? If there's opportunity there, or they can make the same amount of money, hopefully, but have more flexibility and build a portfolio of work in partnership with Franklyn West.
Right. So anything in particular you are working on now, a fun project where the client can be nameless, but you're super excited to watch it deploy?
Yes. So a few, actually. One is we just helped one of the, we just finished this one, but I'm very proud. We helped a data and measurement company, 100-year-old data and measurement company, break open a whole new consumer category. And it's something that they had not done before. We built their go-to-market positioning, sales strategy, their identity, and helped really connect the dots and in-house the operation to crack open a brand new category for the company, which means more revenue, better, stronger reputation, more relationships. So that felt so tangible. I'm very proud of that. It was also, a high margin opportunity for them. Another is we are going on almost 3.5 years with this Fortune 50 retailer. And what I love about it is every year there's a new SWAT team of experts that we become a supplement and complement to their full-time team. We've in-housed it for them. We did all the hiring for them. We hired the new GM, head of sales, and now we just plug in for maintenance to fill the gap so they don't have to hire everything in-house. So I love that the renewals keep happening with this client, which shows we're doing good work. And we continue to evolve our expertise as they need it, which they appreciate. So I'm very proud of that one as well. And finally, we're working with another Fortune 100 e-commerce giant to recruit their new C-suite team. So that's full-on recruiting where we're building their C-suite team to really imagine the future beyond what they're doing now in a more competitive space. How do we differentiate? How do we bring in new partnerships, new talent? So that's a purely a recruiting assignment, which has been super fun. Great CEO. Yeah, very excited about 2024. The more problems and the more talent and the more new technologies that we're bringing to the table, that's when we get excited. We like the hard things.
Yep. I think one common thread that I notice is that, when you're either internally or even an agency for some of these larger brands, you don't necessarily get something that will allow you to really move the needle, right, to work on. Whereas it sounds like you guys are often called in or going in and identifying something that can really move the needle, which when you're of that size, a small percentage needle move is millions of dollars, right? So it's super material. The fact that you're able to go in there and make a change and execute the change, not just put it up in a deck like one of the consulting firms might do and say, here, congratulations, go execute this.
Exactly. It is super inspiring to work in this way where you're adding, we all have different reasons to do what we do. And for me, I've figured out I love adding value. Like I would never want to work on something that's already being covered. It's like, but what is also valuable, which we've heard from one of our streaming prospects, is there's also a bunch of, I don't want to call it low value, There's also work that they don't want their valuable full-time teams spending time on that might be more tactical, which hopefully AI will replace at some point. And so we have had some of those assignments where it's a lot of more tactical behind the scenes, not sexy work. But the good news is it frees up the internal talents to not have to do it. Imagine plugging things in Salesforce or tagging a bunch of new podcast sites so that they don't have to spend all that time doing a SWAT team of engineers. So it could be work that is not as appealing to a marketer, right? But it has to get done.
Yep, the foundation needs to get done one way or other as well. Well, I look forward to continuing to watch your evolution and watch you grow the company, watch you grow the organization, and we'll stay in touch. Absolutely.
Kevin, thank you so much. It's so great, all the work that you're doing, and we'll watch from the sidelines as well.
That sounds great. Thanks so much.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.